Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. Actor Danny Masterson pleads not guilty to rape charges. And police search a Connecticut property for possible clues in the disappearance of a mother of 5.
Our main goal is to, again, work towards providing the family of Jennifer Dulos some closure.
Plus, a Texas motel pool death mystery is one step closer to being solved, thanks to DNA testing.
We are very pleased, after 55 years, to be able to identify our Jane Doe as Jolene Hammy.
And a judge sets a trial date for the only former officer charged in the Breonna Taylor case. Why defense attorneys want it moved to another county. Law and Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmire along with Terri Austin. Actor Danny Masterson entered a not guilty plea on charges of raping 3 women in Los Angeles County. Masterson is accused of sexually assaulting the women in his Hollywood Hills home between 2001 and 2003. The actor is best known for his role in That 70s Show. Masterson is also facing a civil lawsuit along with the Church of Scientology, accusing them of harassing the women for coming forward. Masterson is out on more than $3 million bond and did not appear in court. His attorney was there on his behalf and insisted he's not guilty. The case is now being handed over to a trial judge.
Your Honor, we'd like to put this case out as much as possible. We're lacking a lot of discovery. We can't prepare for any preliminary hearing without much more discovery. And we've got COVID, so we're looking to put this out as long as we can.
We did have a discussion off the record with respect to potential scheduling. I advise all counsel that I'm just simply going to sign the matter. They can discuss further dates now that Mr. Masterson has been arraigned.
Joining me for legal analysis is criminal defense attorney Gigi Gonzalez and co-host Terri Austin. Gigi, simple arraignment of the charges. Lawyer says not guilty as expected. What should we expect as this case continues, though?
Yeah, so he's pleading not guilty. He's going to demand all of the discovery and information as well as a speedy trial. From here on out, we can expect depositions to occur. We can expect certain evidentiary motions filed, maybe even a motion to dismiss later down the line. But until then, we'll just watch the case play out from here.
Now, Terri, Gigi kind of touched on it. Motions are bound to be filed. What kind of motions do you expect in a case like this?
Well, you know, beyond the motion to change the venue or, as Gigi said, a motion to dismiss, which is usual, I think we might see a motion to include evidence of prior bad acts. You know, there have been allegations that Masterson sexually assaulted at least 2 others, and we will probably see a motion by the defense to exclude that evidence. And you know, any evidence of a prior bad act is only admissible if, in fact, it shows intent or pattern. And so I think we might very well see something like that to exclude it.
Yeah, it can be kind of similar to what happened in Bill Cosby's second case, where they had those women who were uncharged bad actors testifying. Thank you both. And now to Connecticut, where police are continuing to look for the remains of a mother missing for a year and a half. Law and Crime's Rachel Stockman was on the scene and has the latest on the search for Jennifer Dulos.
We are outside a home in Farmington, Connecticut, where state police have been here all day searching this home. You can see one of the vehicles owned by state police leaving right now. They've been out here all day searching for clues in relation to the disappearance of mom Jennifer Dulos. You'll remember this case. She was the mom of 5 children who disappeared after dropping her children off in New Canaan, Connecticut. A little bit later, police became suspicious and then arrested her husband, Fotis Dulos, and his then-girlfriend, Michelle Triconis. Fotis Dulos later committed suicide, and they've been trying to locate the body of Jennifer Dulos ever since.
It's discussed in restaurants and in shopping stores and supermarkets. We really don't know what to plead because Mr. Dulos maintained his innocence until his suicide. I think closure first for the family, the Dulos family, of course. I'm quite sure that the populace of all 3 towns, West Hartford and Farmington and Avon, would like to see justice carried out appropriately for Mrs. Dulos.
we've had a drone up over this house. And this house used to be owned by Fotis Dulos' company. And we're hearing that it is in some kind of real estate transaction, and that transaction may be closing soon. So it seems that state police wanted to come back out here to see if they could find any more clues before that real estate transaction went through.
This investigation is still active and ongoing. At this point, we do not have any updates to provide to the public.
We've seen police come and go, walk the perimeter, and we've even seen them dig in a couple of sites in the backyard here. I do not believe they found anything, but we're continuing to monitor this situation very closely, and if we get any new developments, we will let you know.
Now, Gigi, we see that movement there at the house that was owned by Fotis Dulos' company. Could it be because the fact that it's changing hands to someone else, that's why we're getting this added activity?
Exactly right. And they've already searched this property. They haven't been able to find clues in the past. I don't believe they're going to find any new clues now. But because it's about to be going to a new owner, they're going to search the property to make sure that they covered every inch of it to ensure they didn't miss any clues.
Terry, at this point, a year and a half into Jennifer Dulos missing, I think many people are thinking we're going to find a body and not a person. How hopeful are you that we're going to find these remains?
You know, I think if we find the remains, it's not going to be in good condition. Technology is what led us to this particular property because his phone was actually traced, you know, Dulos's phone was traced to that property. And apparently he was there for a couple of hours in the afternoon of the day that she went missing. So hopefully they will find, if not all of her remains, at least some evidence of her body being placed there.
Yeah, at this point, really, I think justice, if it can be found, is in the closure and just the knowing of where Jennifer Dulos is for her family and, of course, for the community. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Gigi. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, presidential pardons by the dozen. Why rapper Lil Wayne will avoid a prison sentence, but the Tiger King is left hanging. An exclusive interview with the pardon attorney next. Before leaving office, President Trump issued 73 pardons and commuted the sentences of an additional 70 people. Rapper Lil Wayne, whose real name is Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., was granted a pardon. Carter pled guilty to possessing a firearm by a convicted felon and faced a 10-year sentence. Also making the list, rapper Kodak Black, whose legal name is Bill Carpry. Trump commuted his nearly 4-year sentence for making a false statement on a federal document while attempting to buy firearms. He has served about half of his sentence. The rapper is awaiting trial in South Carolina for charges of criminal sexual conduct. Not on the list, Tiger King Joe Exotic. The Netflix star has been vocal about his request to be pardoned for violating federal wildlife charges and a murder-for-hire plot of his rival Carol Baskin. It appears his plea was denied. A federal judge is cracking down on another of the Tiger King's rivals, Jeff Lowe. Lowe took over Exotic's animal park and is now being ordered to surrender all big cats under the age of 1 year and their mothers. He's accused of mistreating the animals and is facing a lawsuit filed by the Department of Justice. The Trump administration carried out its 13th and final federal execution. Dustin Higgs was convicted of killing 3 women in Maryland in 1996. He died by lethal injection early Saturday morning. Also executed was Corey Johnson, who was convicted of killing 7 people in Richmond, Virginia. The Justice Department resumed federal executions last year following a 17-year hiatus, carrying out more than any other president in 120 years. Joining me now is attorney Tammy Allison, aka the Pardon Attorney. Tammy is the founder and expert of the first minority-owned federal executive clemency law firm. It's truly an honor to have you on, Tammy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Tammy, first question, because I know for many of us, pardons and the like, this is the first time we're really hearing it. The president basically has the power to pardon and commute sentences federally without any kind of restriction, right?
Facts. Yes, you are absolutely correct. It's in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. That's what people refer to as pardon powers. Now, what that means is for an individual that has been convicted of a federal crime, they are able to request forgiveness. That's what the clemency is. Now, with clemency, there are 2 different types. There's a commutation and then there's a pardon. A commutation is for an individual that is currently serving a sentence at the Federal Bureau of Prisons. That individual is able to request to be released early or for their fines or restitution to be reduced, or both. If an individual has not been sentenced to a federal institution, they would be requesting a commutation as well. But if they had maybe supervised release or probation, they could request to have their fine or restitution reduced or removed. Now, on the other hand, with a presidential pardon, which is commonly incorrectly used interchangeably with clemency, a pardon is when an individual has a federal conviction 5 years after the date of their conviction or the date of sentencing. If they were not sentenced to incarceration, they are able to request that same forgiveness through a presidential pardon. Now, the president can pardon someone without going through the Department of Justice's Office of the Pardon Attorney. Same with the commutations. Traditionally, most of the applicants for federal executive clemency go through the United States Department of Justice's Office of the Pardon Attorney. The attorneys in that office, they review those petitions, they make a recommendation to the president as to whether the petition should be granted favorably or denied. The president can listen to those attorneys in the office or not, because again, he has those constitutional powers to grant or deny clemency. He also has the ability not to even go through the Office of the Pardon Attorney and do what we saw today with his final list of pardons that came out, including the rapper Lil Wayne.
Tammy, let's kind of talk about that list. So you've got Lil Wayne, Steve Bannon, you've got Sarita, Steve Martin, you've got people who run the gamut of different backgrounds. But when we talked during the break, you said nothing surprised you about what was in the list of pardons, but what was not in them. What do you mean by that?
I was actually surprised not to see President Trump's name listed. I had thought that he would probably go ahead and test the limits of the Constitution and its pardon powers. The fact that it has never been done before, but we have seen preemptive pardons in the past, one of the most famous being President Nixon. In that situation, he did resign and then the vice president pardoned him. But there's nothing that could stop a president or anyone in the future, another president, from doing a preemptive self-pardon. So I was definitely surprised. Now, I've heard some commentators and other legal analysts suggest that perhaps he could have pardoned himself, but kept it a secret. But given what we've seen with his characteristics, I don't think that he would keep it a secret if, in fact, he did do a preemptive self-pardon.
Now, Tammy, quick question, because as I look through some of them, some people long list as to why he pardoned them, supported by X, Y, and Z person. Some people, just nothing, like Stephen Bannon. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Again, the Constitution, this man, he's the president. Whoever voted him in there, they put him in there. And with that seat and that title of being the president of the United States of America, he can do whatever he wants to do under the Constitution. So nothing is surprising to me. I understand that me having been at that office since 2008 as an intern, and then I spent 5 years of my career in that office under the Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations. I understand that the general public doesn't see it as easily as I see it, but it's not surprising.
It's just kind of how it goes, I guess.
Well, yes and no. I will
Tammy,
say
unfortunately, I'm sorry, we've got to go. I apologize. I wish we had more time to talk, but we'll talk to you next time. And thank you again for all the information.
Yes.
Coming up on Law&Crime Daily, the latest move to the deadly trial of one of the ex-cops charged in the George Floyd case. Plus, why DNA has answered some questions in a Texas cold case, but also created new ones. Part of a 55-year-old cold case in Texas has been solved thanks to DNA. But the case is far from closed. Angenette Levy tells us why it's still a mystery.
Investigators know that Jolene Hemme drowned in a swimming pool in July of 1966. What they don't know is whether or not her death was an accident or a homicide.
We are very pleased, after 55 years, to be able to identify our Jane Doe as Jolene Hemme.
For decades, Jolene Hemme was only known as Unknown Ex-Girl in Pecos, Texas. On July 5th, 1966, the 17-year-old drowned in a motel swimming pool. She was there with a man who went to the front desk asking for his registration card, claiming he needed it as identification to go to the hospital, but he never showed. A facial reconstruction was conducted, which yielded no clues. But last year, Jolene was exhumed. DNA was collected, and testing linked through genealogy revealed her true identity.
And talking to the family last week was like talking to him 50 years ago. The emotion was just as raw and just as solid of their missing family member.
We stand here today having accomplished the sole purpose of innovative forensic, which is providing answers to families.
It's been a sad story, but it's also with, we feel, a happy ending, so we can bring her home and have a closure on what happened to her. We always were afraid that, you know, something happened to her, and of course never knowing what was always kind of a bad deal.
Jolene Hemme's sister told detectives that there was a man who was interested in her who kept stopping by the restaurant where they worked in Kansas City. His name may have been Joe. Investigators are also eager to determine the name of the man who was with Jolene at the motel that day, and they are optimistic that they can do it. For Law&Crime Daily, I'm Angenette Levy.
An Iowa farmer is hoping for a second chance in civil court after his win in criminal court. Law&Crime Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross has the latest on the father versus son saga.
Thanks, Brian. Coming up this week on Brian Ross Investigates, the story of a family tragedy in Iowa. The Iowa Supreme Court this week will hear the case of Jason Carter, who was accused by his father, Bill Carter, of killing his mother, Shirley Carter. Jason Carter was found not guilty in a criminal trial, but he was found guilty in a civil trial. Now his lawyers will ask for a new trial from the Iowa Supreme Court. I talked with Jason Carter and his wife, Shelley, about what they expect and what they want.
We're hoping that they'll either throw it out or at least overturn the ruling for the civil and give us a new trial. You know, our main hopes are just to have it thrown out altogether, but at the least get a new trial.
That's coming up this week on Brian Ross Investigates on the Law&Crime Trial Network. Brian?
Thanks, Brian. When we come back, a hearing for the ex-cop charged in the Breonna Taylor case. We break down the defense's Prosecutors in the George Floyd case are trying yet again to delay the trial of one of the former officers charged with murder. The trial for Derek Chauvin is scheduled to begin in March. A Minnesota judge ordered Chauvin be tried separately and before the three other ex-cops. Prosecutors are asking the judge to reconsider that decision, citing health concerns during the COVID-19 pandemic, and are asking for the trials to be rejoined. Chauvin is also facing tax evasion charges. That trial has been delayed until June 30th. And in Kentucky, defense attorneys for the former detective charged in the Breonna Taylor case are seeking to move his trial. Brett Hankinson is facing 3 felony charges of wanton endangerment for shooting into a nearby apartment during a raid on Taylor's home last March. No one is charged with Taylor's death. A hearing on the motion for a change of venue is scheduled for March 25th. Hankinson's attorney appeared at a remote hearing via phone on his behalf and said he plans to file the motion in about 2 weeks.
I don't have a specific county, but I believe that the statute says it should be an adjacent county, unless that is not feasible also, and then I assume any county in the state is open. I'd love to have it up here in northern Kentucky.
Well, I can understand why you would prefer that, Mr. Matthews. When I was a trial attorney, I had a case that the venue was changed. Now, we did not go to an adjacent county because of media coverage that, would have affected adjacent counties to Jefferson, and we ended up trying the case in Boyle County in the Danville Circuit Court. But that gives me some idea of where you're thinking.
Aside from possible change in venue, both sides indicated they're ready for trial. The judge scheduled it to begin on August 31st.
The discovery has been provided. I don't have any questions about it, and I don't think there are any outstanding procedural issues at this point.
And Ms. Whaley, could you possibly, if you could, give me an idea of how long you think the prosecution's case would take to try?
Excluding jury selection, I would anticipate 3 to 4 days for the Commonwealth's case.
All right, August 31st, 10 o'clock to start the jury trial.
My panel is back with me for a legal analysis. Gigi, what do you make of this argument that there should be a change of venue? Is it strategy or is it something else?
It's definitely strategy. And for Hankerson to succeed on it, he's going to have to show that he is not likely to get a fair trial in Louisville due to the massive media attention the death of Breonna Taylor has consistently gotten since early last year. It's going to be really difficult to find a jury anywhere that hasn't formed some kind of opinion on this case. So he's got an uphill battle about getting a change of venue here.
And Terry, we heard it could be a potentially very short trial. What do you think that trial looks like? And could it spark more questions as to why no one's being charged for Breonna Taylor's death?
I do think it will be a short trial. It's only one officer. I think they're going to argue that Hankerson was under the belief that the information in the search warrant was accurate and that he was acting reasonably under the circumstances, and shooting into the apartment was not unreasonable.
Gigi, Terry, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us here at Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.